Have you ever noticed something strange? You can spend hours imagining a better life, a healthier body, a successful career, a business, a YouTube channel, a dream version of yourself. And yet, days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even years pass, and somehow nothing changes. You still want it, you still think about it, but you never start. And the worst part? You can't even explain why. Because deep down, you know what to do. You know the first step. So why does it feel impossible to take it? The answer has very little to do with laziness, and much more to do with something most people never realize. Let's talk about it. Imagine a young man lying in bed late at night. His room is dark, but his mind is alive. He imagines himself becoming successful. He sees people admiring his work. He sees financial freedom, confidence, purpose, a completely different life. For a moment it feels real. His heart races. He feels motivated, inspired, certain that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow will be the day he starts. Then morning arrives. The alarm rings. Reality enters the room. The excitement fades. And somehow, the dream stays a dream. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Not once, not twice, but hundreds of times. You tell yourself you'll start next week, next month, when you feel more ready, when life becomes less stressful, when you have more confidence, when you know enough. But that day never comes. And every time it doesn't, a small part of you begins losing trust in yourself. Here's where things get interesting. Most people believe they don't start because they lack motivation. But motivation is rarely the problem. In fact, many people who never start are incredibly motivated. They think about their goals constantly. They watch videos, read books, take notes, make plans, create schedules, research strategies. Yet they remain stuck. Why? Because the brain has a secret priority. And that priority isn't success. It's safety. Your brain doesn't care how big your dreams are. It cares about keeping you alive. And to your brain, anything unfamiliar feels dangerous. Starting something new creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates discomfort. And discomfort triggers resistance. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Protect you. The problem is that protection often looks like procrastination. Think about that for a moment. What if your procrastination isn't a character flaw? What if it's fear wearing a disguise? Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of embarrassment, fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. Most people aren't avoiding the work. They're avoiding the emotions attached to the work. And that's a completely different problem. Pause for a second. Think about one thing you've been delaying. One goal you've carried for months, or maybe years. Now ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? Not the task, the feeling. Because somewhere beneath that unfinished dream, there's usually a fear waiting to be seen. And once you see it, everything starts making more sense. Here's another reason people never start. And it's far more painful. Many people secretly believe that dreaming is safer than trying. Because dreams can't fail. Only actions can. As long as a goal stays in your imagination, it remains perfect, untouched, full of possibility. But the moment you begin, reality gets involved. Mistakes happen. Progress becomes messy. Results become uncertain. And suddenly, your beautiful dream becomes vulnerable. So without realizing it, many people protect their dreams by never acting on them. They stay in the world of potential. Because potential feels comforting. But potential has a dark side. Potential creates the illusion of progress. You feel productive because you're thinking, planning, visualizing, preparing. Yet your life remains exactly the same. And over time, potential becomes a prison. A very comfortable prison. One that looks like hope from the outside, but feels like frustration from the inside. There was once a woman who wanted to start her own business. She spent years learning, years researching, years preparing. She consumed every piece of information she could find. People thought she was hardworking. She thought she was being responsible. But eventually she realized something uncomfortable. She wasn't preparing. She was hiding. Every new piece of information delayed the moment she had to risk failure. Learning had become her excuse. And the day she finally launched, she discovered something shocking. The things she feared most never happened. Not because she was fearless, but because action exposed the lies fear had been telling her. That's the strange thing about fear. It grows in darkness. It grows in imagination. It grows in uncertainty. But once action enters the picture, fear begins losing its power. Not instantly, not completely, but gradually, step by step. Another pause. Ask yourself this. What if the life you want isn't waiting for more confidence? What if it's waiting for movement? Most people believe confidence comes before action. But life works in reverse. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. The first video feels awkward. The first workout feels uncomfortable. The first conversation feels scary. The first attempt feels embarrassing. That's normal. That's supposed to happen. Nobody starts as the person they want to become. They become that person by starting. And this is where many people have a realization that changes everything. The goal was never to feel ready. The goal was to become ready through action. Read that again in your mind. The goal was never to feel ready. The goal was to become ready through action. Because readiness is not a feeling. It's a result. Something earned through experience. Not something granted beforehand. And maybe that's what you've been waiting for. Permission. A sign. Perfect moment. But life rarely provides those things. The people you admire weren't chosen. They weren't magically more confident. They simply acted while uncertainty was still present. They moved before fear disappeared. They started before they felt ready. And eventually, the version of themselves they dreamed about began catching up to reality. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The gap between who you are and who you want to become is often just a collection of postponed beginnings. Beginnings you keep pushing into the future. Beginnings disguised as someday. Beginnings hidden behind excuses that sound reasonable. But every meaningful life is built from small beginnings. Not giant leaps. Not perfect plans. Just small acts of courage repeated consistently. So if you've been waiting for confidence, waiting for certainty, waiting for motivation, maybe it's time to stop waiting. Maybe the first step doesn't need to be impressive. Maybe it just needs to exist. Because one day, you'll either look back at this moment as another day you delayed your life, or the day everything finally started. And that choice is much smaller than it seems. One action, one attempt, one imperfect beginning. That's all it takes. Not to change your life overnight, but to finally move in the direction you've been dreaming about for years. And sometimes, that's enough.